Good evening from Raleigh, North Carolina on this Tuesday, January the 2nd, 2018 at approximately 9:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're now about 16 to 18 or so hours out from our likelihood of seeing winter weather in the eastern third of the state, and we're kind of transitioning in that zone from where we keep looking at the models for projections and kind of looking at what's happening now in areas like the Gulf states and in Florida and in Georgia where the precipitation will be coming from, and we're going to kind of start. We're transitioning into that phase where we're seeing things kind of come together, and we're going to see how that progresses into tomorrow. And so we'll start off here with the current warnings and advisories we have out. So starting here with a winter weather advisory for Cumberland, Sampson, Wayne, Johnston, Wilson, and Edgecombe counties in central North Carolina. And what this means is a winter weather advisory. Some people tend to think of advisory, they don't think as severe as a warning, but actually the winter weather advisory was an upgrade from a winter storm watch. You may have been wondering, that may have popped up on your phone if you live in these counties like I do. I live in Johnston County here. And you may be wondering, did they downgrade us or what? That not necessarily. That's just the criteria for winter storm warning in North Carolina, at least from what I've seen, is 4 inches of snow or other winter-related impacts, and the advisory is just for a lesser amount, but still you're going to have impacts from the winter weather. So I digress from what I was going for here, but just know that an advisory is not a downgrade from a winter storm watch. But continuing on the track I was on, anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of snow with no freezing rain or sleet expected in this purple shade here right along the I-95 corridor, Interstate 95 running right through here, through Johnston County, down through Fayetteville, and down through Lumberton. But the winter weather advisory is kind of going to serve as that dividing line between the cutoff between any snow, where you may just see some snow showers or flurries. You can kind of see, the line it's taking here. If I kind of toggle my mouse back and forth, you can see, the general track that the storm is expected to take, and that would leave areas like Raleigh, areas like Southern Pines, Hamlet down here, Rockingham, Durham, Oxford would kind of be the cutoff from where you have all of the winter precipitation and just some flurries or some light snow showers. But this is where the accumulations are expected to begin, and then the pink in Robeson County, Bladen County, Columbus County, Brunswick County, New Hanover County, Pender County, Onslow, Duplin, Jones, what was that? Carteret, Craven, Lenoir, Greene, Pitt, Beaufort, Hyde, Terrell, Dare, Washington, and Martin County. I have to review my counties there to make sure I'm always going right. But all of those locations are under a winter storm warning for anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of snow, with a little bit of possible ice accrual possible as the event onsets. Now here, it should all arrive as snow. And we're talking, the time frame here, we're talking maybe around lunchtime tomorrow when this starts to slowly kind of come on. Some snow will kind of come on and off and then eventually become more steady is what's expected to happen. But the winter storm here, this is also, all these areas shaded in pink, could include some sleet in the beginning. Some precip could come down heavier and kind of mix in with some sleet and some freezing rain. So there may be some kind of crunchy ice that actually kind of accumulates before any snow begins to fall. And there may be some, especially out here closer toward the inner banks and the outer banks here, that could lead to maybe a little crunchy layer of ice or sleet on top of any snow that does fall. And then up here in this blue shade we have winter storm watch in Bertie, Northampton, Hertford, Chowan, Perquimans, Pasquotank, Currituck, and Camden County over here. And those will probably be upgraded to a winter storm warning overnight. Those are just, they're following the time slot to where they're going to change that to a warning when about maybe 16 hours or so ahead of when the precipitation is expected. But overall, that's the current advisories and the warnings we have. They're out. If you're in a county that's under any of these advisories or warnings, be sure you read your advisory and know what you can kind of expect for the area. The main threat for this, and I'll switch over to my other slide here, is that the cold air is going to linger. So here's our favorite chart from the past couple of videos where we're showing ensemble. So you have a bunch of 50 members here that you've kind of averaged into what's expected, and this is from the European model actually. And these are probabilistic charts, and the wider or the taller these ranges are, the more kind of variable, or the more variance, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is there in the temperature. So it's kind of unsure the larger that, but the smaller you can see, we're more certain of the temperature closer to today, and then as you go farther out, the uncertainty grows. But what I want you to focus on here is the high temperatures on this bar right here and the low temperatures here. aside from this winter weather tomorrow, right behind it's going to be another blast of very frigid air, and this could even be exacerbated by if there is any snow cover in the eastern third of the state or so. That would even bring these temperatures down more, and these low temperatures could be very, very low, approaching some record levels down into single digits and lower teens. And even on, I think I was checking on January the 5th, if this verifies, this is for Raleigh, North Carolina, by the way, the RDU airport. If this were to verify for a high of 27 on January 5th, that would tie a record low maximum temperature. So we are flirting with some record cold here. If for some reason we do not get above freezing tomorrow at the RDU airport, that would also begin to be flirting with some record length cold. So not only is it cold, but it's here for such a long period of time. That's very unusual, and that's why we're having this threat of winter precipitation. But just an aside to remind you that the cold air is here to stay even after the storm, finally moderating by about next Monday. So moving on from that, I'm going to move on to the HRRR, the High Resolution Rapid Refresh, and this is kind of showing, this is where we're at now, and then every time I go forward an hour here, every time the image animates is another hour. And you can see Florida down here. There's actually some winter storm warnings in Tallahassee and in the Big Bend of Florida here, up through southeastern Georgia and coastal South Carolina. Winter storm warning. Florida State University actually canceled classes, I think, just to be absolutely safe for any potential winter impacts. That could be this purple shades representing sleet, I think in this case, and freezing rain would be here. So some winter weather down there, and that's what's going to kind of be the genesis for our storm and get started. And if I go, the HRRR only goes out 15 hours, so it's not quite getting to where we'll see impacts tomorrow, but you can see the snow starting to form down here, and I can shift this up, and you can see that beginning to get back where I was starting here. And if I go forward, you can see that little, let me switch my map here, so we're seeing the same thing we saw in Florida. Here we go. You can see that nose beginning to kind of work up here, and it's still, a couple hundred miles away from central North Carolina, but that's what would come up, and it's expected that this will kind of blossom and develop and kind of take this same, if I toggle this back and forth, you can kind of see the trajectory it's on, following kind of this general direction, and it would continue on there. And the upper coastal plain seems to be what's kind of Mother Nature's kind of setting its bullseye on to say that's probably going to be the area with the most snow accumulation. But that's, of course, any tick left or right to the track of the low pressure system is going to be crucial to that. And to give you another view, here's a look at the GFS model. So this is the same thing. It's just showing you the blue is snow, pink is any mix. And if I go forward in time here, you see that it goes up. This is a much more coarse model, so you're not seeing the fine detail you saw in the high resolution rapid refresh model. But it has, an area of snow here. You can't get too focused on this exact cutoff. That's just it's its best projection, excuse me. And as this goes up, you can kind of see, this area stays under some of the heaviest snow that's just to the west of this the center of the low pressure that's developing, and that's why the highest snow is expected in this area in North Carolina. This tooltip would go away. See if I can get this to get out of here. Here we go. And this area here is expected to get the highest because that period of snow is going to actually be over that area for the longest amount of time. So that's why we're expecting that Wilson, Nash, Edgecombe, Halifax County may be kind of the bullseye for this. And to kind of reiterate that in a graphical form from the National Weather Service in Raleigh, we've seen this graphic a lot in my videos as well, and this is the expected snowfall from the National Weather Service in Raleigh for central North Carolina. For the triad, I really just don't see this panning out for you. You may see some snow flurries if you're lucky, maybe a couple snow showers, but there should not be any accumulating snow anywhere west of north and west of Interstate 40 in this case, or Interstate 85. Everything should be confined to the east of US Highway 1, which cuts through Wake and Harnett and Lee, Moore counties down here. All the action should kind of be, the main action should be east of Interstate I-95, which is this line right here. And, anywhere this tight gradient, it could shift from west to east depending on the track of the storm. But what you need to remember is that the ground's already cold. Anything that does fall is going to stick, and it's probably going to become a mess pretty quickly, especially because this is expected to begin in the early afternoon, kind of getting ramped up into the evening commute hours, which is certainly some pretty bad timing, but we have no control over that, of course. What you do have control over is to drive safely and plan accordingly to try to get off work early. I know some schools are letting out early, which is, in my opinion, a very wise decision to get out before any roads, because it is so cold. Soil temperatures are so low, and all the precip is expected to be purely snow. the snow won't immediately make the road slick, but as cars are driving over it and people walk on snowy sidewalks, it compacts that snow, and that snow continues to freeze, and it just makes a big icy mess. And with our low temperatures being as low as they are, it definitely brings the threat for some slick roads and some slick walkways, definitely able to get hurt, and definitely the potential for some very treacherous travel. So be able to plan accordingly for that, and be aware that anywhere east of US 1 I-95 area is where you're expected the greatest impacts. And to jump over to our neighboring office to the east at Morehead City, this is showing that same sort of bullseye. I forgot to pull up the Wakefield, Virginia office, but this just kind of continues up into here, anywhere from 4 inches to 5 inches in some locations, 3. Johnson County's right here where we had 2 inches, so you can imagine a 2 inches, 3 inches, over to 4 inches, this gradient here of that, and you can see how the main action should be east of I-95. Here's I-95 once again. I keep reiterating that because that seems to be this kind of cutoff between where the heaviest snow will be and where the transition zone where someone can be very surprised or someone could be very disappointed depending on the exact track that low pressure takes. And down to Wilmington for any viewers I have in that area. I know I have a couple in, I think, Columbus County or Brunswick County that were particularly affected by, if you can use that as a proxy, some of the areas that were worst affected by Hurricane Matthew, such as Pine Tops, such as Princeville, Tarboro, south of Fayetteville, down in Duplin County, Onslow County, Sampson County, some of those areas are kind of expected to be the most, have the most impacts from this storm. So you can kind of use that as a proxy to say, those same areas, east of I-95, that sounds familiar. That's what happened with Hurricane Matthew. Those areas are kind of the areas that may get the biggest snow out of this and may have the biggest threat for kind of freezing roadways if that snow does fall fast enough and it gets compacted by cars passing over. So I'm going to combine this into a bigger snowfall map and probably post it on my page so it's a little more clear because it's hard to jump back and forth between offices, but the regions that the National Weather Service offices are responsible for by these county cutoffs. But I will certainly put that together and make it a little more clear. But overall, you said this, you've probably read this several times, it's your local news. Most of the impact should be east of I-95, which is actually this. I shared this on my page earlier. I highlighted I-95. Anywhere in this eastern third of North Carolina is really where the biggest impact should be. I would feel confident in saying everyone east of I-95 will probably see some kind of wintry weather, whether it's snowflakes even down here, just a few flurries, and then around I-95 and west is where you'll see that sharp transition. The zone could extend into Raleigh a little bit, it could extend a little bit west, it could kind of peter out and kind of bust and not even make it this far. It's just a wait and see. Know that winter weather is possible. It is January, it's the heart of North Carolina's winter, so you just have to be aware of that. And one last note before I wrap up here is a really great app you can download to kind of keep track of this and to keep track of power outages, traffic conditions, which is very important for tomorrow. It's called the ReadyNC app, readync.org, put on by, I think it's NC Emergency Management that actually, Emergency Management here that runs it. And it's a great app. You can just go to the App Store on iOS devices, and that's Apple devices, iOS, and you can download it. Just search ReadyNC. It can be lowercase just as long as it's together. And it's a great app. It's very well done, and it's very easy to use. It comes up on your home screen here when you open the app, and you can easily look at road conditions or power outages, or goodness forbid if we need shelters tomorrow or things go wrong, disaster assistance. You can look at that information, and also you can quickly share it to any of these locations for quick access to kind of spread the word to make the recovery process and the emergency assistance as quick as possible if need be. But it's a really great app to have, especially with the diverse range of weather we have in North Carolina. Certainly recommend it. I came across this. It was actually recommended to me, and I downloaded it, and it's been very, very helpful. So I recommend you follow that. So back to here. Our advisories I'll leave on this page, and just remember that we do have the threat for winter weather. It's looking very likely. Confidence is moderate to high. The confidence in the totals is not quite as high. There could be some spots that get a lot more, a lot less. It just depends on the exact track of that system. Just know that snow is possible, and that it's likely that North Carolina, at least the eastern third, east of I-95, will see some accumulating snow tomorrow. So if you have any questions, feel free to message me on Facebook or message me on Twitter at AndrewsWX Center. And if you have any questions, you can email me as well. And look forward to seeing you on the next video. I'll have a video update tomorrow during the storm, and I hope that you stay safe and stay warm.